We are discussing Ambedkar's views on Marxism or communism. What did he say on these things? To begin with, Ambedkar agreed with the ends of Marxism as well as communism, with the ends. What is the end of Marxism or communism? A society without private property. So Ambedkar believed that private property is a bad thing, and private property, he would say, is the source of conflict and sorrow. So, for example, causes of unhappiness include possession of private property that brings power to one class and sorrow to another. So, Ambedkar believed in ending of private property. This is an important point because USSR experience and Chinese experience shows that private property is needed for societies to be prosperous. So this is actually the reason for the collapse of USSR and for China to change its ideology. So we can say Ambedkar, if we are thinking whether Ambedkar knew that there is a private property was needed and communism would fail, if that is the question, the answer is that Ambedkar didn't know. Ambedkar believed that the private property is not needed and it should be ended. So which means he believed in the ends of communism. He believed in the ends. Okay. Ambedkar's disagreement with Marxism or communism is about the means. Marxists or communists used violence to get the end of abolition of private property. But Ambedkar thought this means is wrong. So he believed in ends and means connection. Ends and means connection. If means are bad, ends cannot be good. Ends also will be bad. So, Ambedkar's disagreement is the use of violence for abolition of private property. So, means of communists are not good. Means of communists are not good. He said, communists have destroyed private property, assuming that this is a valuable end, and Ambedkar assumes so. Can the communists say that they have destroyed other valuable ends in the process of, can the communists say they haven't destroyed other valuable ends in the process of achieving it? How many people have they killed for achieving their end? Has human life no value? So, this is where Ambedkar disagrees. That's one issue. But then Ambedkar compares Marxism, which is a proposal for a particular political economic order, with Buddhism, a religion. Though of course it has implications for a particular political economic order, but this essentially is religion. This is a proposal for an economic order. But Ambedkar compares Marxism not with capitalism and other political or economic systems, but compares with Buddhism. Comparison with Buddhism itself, I would say, is problematic. Buddhism is about personal transformation. It's about personal transformation. Ambedkar takes this and compares with the Marxism, because Ambedkar's proposal is that if there is personal transformation, then communism will come. If man changes, communism will come. And communism will come without any violence, with no violence. So, Ambedkar's argument is that communism is good, that is, the end of communism is good, but that should come through not violent revolution, but transformation of man. And so he says this: one has to choose between government by force and government by moral disposition. What the Buddha wanted was that each man should be morally so trained that he may become a sentinel to the kingdom of righteousness. So, Ambedkar is saying that moral transformation of man is what should create a society without private property. Okay. And which means Buddhism is much better than Marxism. or communism. Because Buddhism can bring communism without violence. And so Ambedkar proposes that people should be Buddhists. And he thinks his mission is to convert people to become Buddhists. He himself converted in 1956, and he wrote a article, Karl Marx or Buddha, Savior, and he gave a speech in Kathmandu about Buddhism. So he was thinking about these issues in the end, and he himself got converted, he converted others, and he wants more people to be converted. And he takes that as a solution to the problem of inequalities. Then let us see what else. Comparing communism with Buddhism, he says, communism can bring only equality. And communism can bring equality, but not liberty and not fraternity. He says, we welcome the Russian Revolution because it aims to produce equality. But it cannot be too much emphasized that in producing equality, society can't afford to sacrifice fraternity or liberty. Equality will be of no value without fraternity or liberty. Okay, so communism can bring equality but not liberty and fraternity. And then he again compares with Buddhism. It seems that the three can coexist only if one follows the ways of Buddha. Communism can give one but not all. So, liberty, equality, fraternity is or what communism can't, only Buddhism can. Can give liberty, equality and fraternity. Whereas communism can give only this. This is missing, this is missing. Okay. And so he finds Buddhism is a superior alternative. And then he says, amazingly, isn't Buddhist Sangha an example of communism? Says Russians don't seem to be paying attention to Buddhism as an ultimate aid to sustain communism when force is withdrawn. So Russians are maintaining communism with force. But what happens when the force is withdrawn? The Russians are proud of their communism, but they forget that the wonder of all wonders is that Buddha established communism so far as the Sangha was concerned without dictatorship. It may be that it was communism on a very small scale, but it was communism without a dictatorship, a miracle which Lenin failed to do. So, number one, he is comparing a proposal for political economic order with a religion. This is one serious issue. And now he says Buddhist Sangha is communism. These are very, very questionable. How can Sangha be communism? In a society, some monks are living in a monastery, but they are not producing anything. They are not self-sufficient. They are being funded by the state, others. So, Sangha is part of a larger society being funded by others. So, how can Sangha be communism? It is not a matter of scale. It is simply not communism. And if Buddhist Sangha is communism, then Christian monastery also is communism. So, to say that Sangha became communist without violence is so completely meaningless proposal. So, Ambedkar is not looking at Marxism as an important political economic, a proposal for economic and political order, and he has to propose something if he disagrees, something different. But religious conversion cannot be a solution. And more importantly, there are so many societies countries are Buddhist, but don't they have private property? And then violence in the society? Don't they have hierarchy in the society? So, how can conversion to Buddhism will solve political and economic problems? Okay. So, I take Ambedkar as a kind of an enthusiast because of his new religion. It is an enthusiasm of a new convert. You don't see any mature thinking in what Ambedkar says. Something like Buddhism is the solution. In a speech in Kathmandu, November 20th, 1956, few weeks before his death, he said, I am going to give this religion a new lease of life. All our problems will end only on our going over to Buddhist path. It is unnecessary for the Buddhist people to go to Karl Marx to get the foundation. The foundation is already there, well laid. Okay. So, this talk is very, very immature. Ambedkar is making or giving speeches like this at the fag end of his life. And then he says that in the same meeting, don't be allured by communist success. I am quite confident that if we all become 1/10 as enlightened as the Buddha was, so he wants 1/10 Buddhas. So 1/10 Buddhas into some thousands. That will bring transformation. We can bring about the same result by methods of love, of justice and goodwill. The methods of love, justice. Good. He urged the youthful audience here. So, I feel that Ambedkar's best contribution is in politics, for being independent of Gandhi. And for his critique of Indian society. And for proposing how constitution is important rather than social morality. So he raised the issue of caste and exposed hypocrisy of elite and as well as Congress. So these are his contributions. So he made his important contribution to politics and looking at the issues of religion. I think he is too shocked or impressed by the religion of Buddhism. So thinking that that is a solution. So I would say that his mature work is over in politics, but here he is quite immature and I would say he is trying to grapple with issues of that Buddhism is rising, and he is not really equipped or trained to look at a religion differently. He is impressed and shocked, just like a new convert. You don't see a mature political thinker. So this is how he is different from Gandhi. Gandhi was impressed by religion first, and from religion he derived politics. This is Gandhian path. Ambedkar did political work, and then he is coming to religion in the end, and too shocked by this to think that Buddhism is the solution. If Buddhism is the solution, then there are so many Buddhist countries. Did they solve political and economic problems? So, the last phase of Ambedkar's life doesn't represent mature political thought, rather than some kind of trying to come to terms with issues over which he really had no clue.